Welcome back, everybody. We are back together in New York with another episode of A Touch More. We took in game one of the Aces Liberty, first game of the semi, so we'll talk about that. Plus, we spent some time at the University of Portland for a very special Hall of Fame induction. Go Pilots. I saw
Good on
Mr.
ya.
Pilot.
You
It's
did.
a pretty cool mascot.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, his beard is thick.
Yeah.
And we also have the responses to Are You a Megan or Are You a Sue? The White House edition. And we're going to discuss all of this with all of y'all today.
Support for A Touch More comes from L'Oreal Paris, who recently announced their 2024 Women of Worth honorees. Later in the episode, we're going to share some super inspiring stories from the alumni of the program. So stick around and hear more about these incredible women. We want to begin with the toxic and racist behavior that has been taking over some of the conversation around the WNBA this year. You know, honestly, Sue, like part of the reason we have this podcast and are spending our time doing this is to bring the player's perspective and to bring all the experience and expertise and things that we've lived through over the years in our respective sports to bring how it is for us and what we think about it. And I feel like I'm like, are we made for this moment? Obviously you playing in the W for so long, and us both, engaging in topics around equality really just in general for so long. And when you're a female athlete, you literally have to. It's not something that we get to choose to do or not do. And so much of this conversation around the W and what's happened, and we're going to get into it, has been about like who and what players are responsible and why. But I think that is coming at it from the wrong perspective.
Well, yeah, like just to rewind for a second, I do think we're uniquely positioned. I do think this is part of why we wanted to have this podcast. I do think we bring a certain nuance, a certain expertise. We've experienced so much. Yes, for me, right now we're talking about the WNBA, but for you as well in the activism space and what it means to be a white player playing sports as a woman these days. So it's not an easy conversation because it is so layered, because it is so nuanced. What has been, I think, really sad for me while watching all of this play out is seeing how those layers and that nuance doesn't get discussed. People want it to be so simple. They want to put, I think we know men's sports so well. We know it so well. I mean, we talk about this all the time. We know it so well, you don't even know you know it. That's how well you know it. It's like in the fabric of our society. And a lot of times people take that knowledge or that understanding of men's sports and they put it, they put that lens onto women's sports. And that is just such a disservice because it's different and the things we are impacted by are different. I think it's easy and a quick statement to say the things that have held back women's sports are racism, sexism, and homophobia, amongst other things. But that is the starting point. And that is the lens with which you have to look through a lot of these things. So that's kind of my just overall view on why we want to have this conversation and why we are uniquely positioned to have it.
And that brings us to what we're talking about. We're going to begin with an interview that has sparked a ton of reaction around the W and beyond, frankly. Brennan from the USA Today interviewing Dijonai Carrington about colliding with Caitlin Clark during the round one matchup between the Fever and the Sun. We're going to play the clip for you right now.
Dijonai? Yeah. Did you, when you went and kind of swatted at Caitlin, did you intend to hit her in the eye? And if so, could you just, or if not, either way, could you talk about what happened on that play?
I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me. But no, I didn't. I didn't know I hit her, actually. I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I guess I followed through and I hit her. So obviously it's never intentional. That's not even like the type of player that I am. So yeah.
Did you and Marina kind of laugh about it afterwards? It looked like there was later on in the game they caught you guys laughing about it.
No, I just told you I didn't even know I hit her. So I can't laugh about something I didn't know happened.
This exchange was rightly and very strongly called out by the WNBA executive director, Terry Jackson. Terry called the interview an attempt to bait Dijonai. USA Today is choosing to fully back Christine Brennan, saying that she was only trying to get the player's perspective. This, to me, was pretty shocking, to be honest, from Christine Brennan. She's covered my whole career. She's covered your whole career. She's been covering women's sports and sports in general for 40 years. Sue, how did we get here at this stage in this season where we are talking about this and not talking about the games that are being played?
Yeah. Well, I definitely have some reactions to that interview that I know we're going to get into later. But I do want to, from my perspective, given, again, my experience and just how long I've been in this league, been a part of it, and had to deal with things similar, what I have seen unfold over the last 5 months or so since, back in April at the Final Four. And in a lot of ways, that's where it started. In some ways, it started with me and Diana in our show getting interviewed by Scott Van Pelt, and Diana having, her response, which if you go back and watch it, and I don't mean to split hairs here, but it is just another moment where things get taken onto social media and they just grow and people spew and it turns into something that you can't even recognize within 24 hours. Scott Van Pelt did ask Diana a question about rookies. Now, was Dee talking about Caitlin or not? You have to ask her. If I can get ahead of myself for a second, Diana has been so complimentary of Caitlin since, which to me just really speaks to the issue, which is at times people have been negative towards some of these rookies, right? From a basketball standpoint. They have been critical from a basketball standpoint. And yet those statements have been just blanket statements on how an entire group of people feel. That is what is really, really troubling for me. What you see in men's sports at times, and I'll use examples like Dylan Brooks and Draymond Green, and it's not to call them out in any specific way other than they've had moments with players. And yet when they do something, it's not the entire league hates the player that they happen to have a thing with. All right. So I just want to start with that. So where I've 100% landed is that once Diana's comments went viral, it led to the Twitter trolls and bots taking over. And what started there was this narrative of petty, jealous players hating on Caitlin. That's really what happened. That's where it started, that we must just dislike her, that we look at her side-eyed, that we don't want her to come in the WNBA and be successful, that we're hating on her, right? So we're petty and we're jealous. And from there, when we get to the start of the WNBA season, this is already planted in people's heads. This already exists. And when the games start and the play is physical, which it always is, I watched pretty much every single one of Caitlin's games early on because I am a fan. I do like good basketball. And of course, I wanted to see how she would do. And I can even have that conversation of my own opinions coming into the WNBA and whether I had question marks or whether I thought she would do well. I'm open to having that conversation as well because that is a sports conversation. And just another, I'm going to be on 1,000 tangents while I do this. But what's really also disheartening is the coverage of Caitlin coming out of college, Angel Reese as well, coming out of college and going into the WNBA. We as WNBA players were having basketball conversations and everybody just took it to another place where we were attacking them as people. And that's, again, where that petty and jealousy lives.
Yeah, because
I digress.
To put a point on what Dee said it's going to be a jump. The league is really difficult. It's very physical. Talent is talent and greatness is greatness.
And it'll show itself.
And we'll see. That's what she said.
She goes, greatness will show itself.
Greatness will show itself.
I know.
As it did.
Something I'll just add to that since we're on the topic. You know what the issue is in this moment? Here's the issue. As WNBA players, we know the level of competition that's in the WNBA. And we also know the level of competition that's in college. And this is not This is not to put down college basketball. We all came from college basketball. We all love and support and watch college basketball. College basketball on the women's side is a more popular sport. It has more fans, it has more eyeballs, it gets more attention. And I think at times, the people that don't know, they view it as a reliable evaluator of talent. And college basketball is a very tricky evaluator of talent. There have been players that have had amazing college careers only to get to the WNBA as top picks and struggle. And maybe they never make it. Some of them out the league in 2-3 years. Some of them it takes 2-3 years to find themselves. It's just not a reliable evaluator. And because of that, a lot of us look at college and we're like, okay, we see what the player's doing and we respect it. But okay, I want to see them against pros. That's all that was. That is a basketball conversation.
Well, every league in every sport, for men and for women, the pros is better than all the best players from college.
But for women's
go
basketball,
and play in the pros.
Women's basketball gets twisted a little bit.
Right. No, people do. That's exactly what it is. It's like only the top, 0.00% of college players actually play in the WNBA.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 144 of them. So
Yeah.
it's like, obviously it's going to be better. Obviously it's going to be a jump.
Absolutely. I just feel like this is actually the opportunity I've never had to really kind of almost level set what's happening. So the season starts. I watch the games. Not at any point did I think anybody was playing dirty against Caitlin. Not at any point did I think Caitlin was targeted. And I'm going to stop on that word because what happened was these petty jealousy narratives that got formed. Then when the season started and people saw people blocking Caitlin's shot or picking her up full court, it then became, oh, they're targeting her. Oh, they're trying to hurt her. Mm-hmm. I cannot stress enough how insulting that is. That is probably potentially the biggest insult you could throw at an athlete, especially an entire league of athletes. Mm-hmm. All players were doing, and I can attest to this, I did not come out of college with the same amount of fanfare as Caitlin. I did not come out of college with the same level of popularity, scrutiny, all of it. Nobody has. Caitlin is one of one. There's zero doubt about that. But when I came into the league, I had a really good college career.
Bet you were on that scouting report.
I was on the scouting report, and everyone was picking me up full court. Everybody was playing me physical, and they were basically testing me out. They were testing you out.
Yeah.
Because you know what happens? If you don't handle it, they're going to keep doing it because that is how you stop great players.
Yeah.
When people were up in arms about Caitlin getting picked up full court, and we talked about this early in one of our podcasts, it was like, well, yeah, you have to. If you don't, she's going to drop 35 on you.
Yeah.
It's called smart defense. You got to take people out of their game, right? Yeah. We just watched the Liberty versus the Aces. Watch Alicia Clark guard Brianna Stewart. Aces at times go small. AC knows.
Yeah.
I got to be physical with
Sabrina
Stewie.
got picked up full court every time she brought the ball.
Tiffany Hayes, Jackie Young, all over her.
Yeah,
this is basketball.
Yeah.
But again, what happened was all of these narratives got birthed through Twitter trolls. And I will shout out Caitlin for making that point. These aren't fans, these are trolls. We'll circle back on that later. These Twitter trolls and then bots created all these narratives. And then you had media members who don't usually cover our league step into the space because Caitlin and Angel and the rookie class brought a lot of new attention. Mm-hmm. They're now in this space. And I don't know if they're only reading Twitter. I don't know what their research was like. The way it came across was they did none. Yeah. And they were just listening to all the narratives. So whether it was media members who were new, who didn't do their research, who were just tapping in, or casuals, as I've liked to kind of call it, my mother-in-law, your brother-in-law,
Denise,
your cousin.
We're not totally talking about you, but kind
of. No, not me. Your friend of a friend.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, every person in the women's basketball space, and even you, Megan, you're getting hit up yo, why are they doing this to Caitlin?
Is this happening or is it what's happening? They're just hearing the things and it's
they're
is this happening? And I'm
narratives.
no, it's not happening. And then I have to give them a diatribe on 25 minutes about the history of racism and sexism in the country. Yeah.
Right. So before we continue, there is one thing I want to reset that we want to reset. And it's the language being used around fans. Mm-hmm. Fever fans, Caitlin fans, new fans. That actually has to go. That has to go. I understand why at times it's been used. It's kind of just when you're in an interview and you get asked a question, it's kind of easy to go, oh, the Fever fan base.
Yeah,
what
do you mean by that? That has to go.
Oh, these new fans. It has to go because it's not the Fever fans. It's not Caitlin fans. That is a large group of people. Let's stick with the Fever for a second. That is a large group of people. And what we're talking about as we get into the meat of this, we're talking about the faction of that group that is pushing racist agendas and is pushing hate and creating, divisiveness online, acting as fans, acting as Fever fans, acting as Caitlin fans. Now, whether or not they like basketball, whether or not, I don't know. But that's the group of people we're talking about. Not all Fever fans, not all new fans, just the ones that are out there pushing this shit. That is what we're talking about. All of what I've said led to this group of people being able to push those racist agendas, which really has been, in my opinion, the cause of all of this. And everybody from this moment on has, not everybody, but a lot of people have been operating under the assumption that these narratives, particularly the targeting narrative, is true. And that has caused, I would say, I'd argue, almost all of the issues that we're seeing. It really has. And it's so far from the truth, and that's why it's been so sad for me to watch it play out. And again, we're going to get into all of this, and I'm going to throw it back to you. Because it does beg the question, well, who's responsible for stopping this? And I think the other part of this is we've now arrived here, we meaning the whole entire world of women's basketball, and now players have to speak. They're being forced to, in a sense, right? People have to dispel this. But can you put that cat back in the bag? And that's the difficulty that we're seeing. Something else that was really disheartening for me, and I actually really enjoy Charles Barkley. I enjoy watching him. I have gotten to like spend a little bit of time with him. He's so enjoyable. I actually agree with most of what he says. When I was watching a TNT playoff game and all of a sudden out of nowhere, he squared up to the camera to tell women of the, WNBA essentially to stop being petty. That's when I knew these narratives were out of control. I was like, oh my God. What did I just witness?
What did we just? I vividly remember both
shock.
of us looking at each other like, I know he ain't blaming women.
It was just, it was so far from what was happening.
It's hurtful.
And by the way, I just also want to highlight, I already discussed nuance and layers and all the things. There are times, Kennedy Carter hip checked Caitlin. I'm not gonna act like that didn't happen. Now, do I know why she did that? No. Did it happen? Yeah. And still, I'm sitting here telling you, nobody is targeting her because they're petty and jealous and want to hurt her. And if that exists, by the way, we act like jealousy doesn't exist in sports all the time. We act like foul play, if you will, doesn't exist in sports all the time. But it's also within the realm of sport.
Yeah.
And people are acting like this doesn't exist.
Tell me the best player on every team doesn't get more attention, doesn't get more physical. You go and watch Lionel Messi play, and the strategy against him is to foul him all the time because he's so good. If you let him dribble, he's going to score on you. The strategy against Diana is to, she'll be physical back with you. So
I'm saying for me,
maybe not,
I
maybe
know
you
100%.
Yeah. The strategy against you is to
me
be physical
was to
with
be
you.
physical with
Otherwise,
me.
you're going to pick them apart.
So I told this story before the season. Ramona Shelburne did an article, and it was like, what's your rookie hazing moment, for lack of a better? And this is true. I got picked up full court. We were playing the Sparks. Nikki McCrimmon picked me up full court, was trying to pick my pocket the whole game, got me a couple times, super physical, all the things. I find out later, Michael Cooper, the head coach at the time, basically put a bounty on my head and was like, every time you pick her pocket, I'll give you like $100. Like 50, maybe it was 50, I don't remember. I'll give inflation. I'll give you $100. Like that's a real thing. And if somebody wants to have a conversation about the WNBA being too physical, by all means, what do I always say? It's like I played in the wrong era. I would love to be playing now.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And nobody plays outside of the realm of a contact sport.
Right.
Nobody is. So with Charles Barkley, it's like, yeah, he made a mistake. And it's not the worst thing to make mistakes, but the responsibility is greater for you as a media member to try not to make mistakes, but when you do, correct them. That is so important. And we're going to get back to Christine Brennan and her line of questioning. And before we do, we also wanted to kind of present something we've learned recently, which is this idea of a, quote, loaded question. It was brought to my attention. I gave it a quick research.
I've experienced loaded questions.
And the definition of a loaded question is a complex question that contains a controversial assumption or falsehood and is often used to manipulate the respondent. The goal of a loaded question is to limit the respondent to a specific answer that serves the questioner's agenda. When I listen to that clip, that is what I hear. And that is why I wanted to give my timeline of what I've seen unfold. Thoughts?
Yeah, I saw that line of questioning. We actually talked about this, and we were because we analyze everything to the death, obviously, and get into these conversations because it's what we love to do, and we love sports so much, and we love our women's sports. But we were like, where did it? Obviously, hearing it initially, my visceral reaction was like, "That's not good. That doesn't feel good. That feels racist, to be honest. That feels like you're putting Dijonai in an impossible situation to your definition of loaded question, just right away." So we were talking about it, and it's like, okay, was it the first question or was it the second question? And it's actually neither. It is the premise of the question is disingenuous. So to try to get into the conversation about, well, which question or which word or which, exactly at what point did it feel the whole thing is disingenuous because the whole premise relies on the belief that Dijonai, and this is something that's been happening all year specifically with Dijonai and Caitlin, that Dijonai's targeting Caitlin or, going extra hard at her or whatever, which, by the way, Dijonai, shout out, first team all defense, only guard to be on defense. Dijonai's one of the best defenders in the WNBA. She's gonna be on you. Like, she's gonna be in there. So the premise of the question relies on the belief that Dijonai is targeting, that Dijonai specifically swatted or swiped into Caitlin's eyeball. First of all, the square footage of her eyeball is very small.
Do you know how hard it would be?
so hard to poke someone in the eye.
Someone in the eye. That was my first thought.
Yeah.
I was like, do you know how difficult it would be to aim and poke someone in the eye?
Right. My reaction to this and my feeling about this is, the whole thing is disingenuous. The whole conversation around Caitlin being targeted is disingenuous, and players, Caitlin herself, other people have dispelled that. And
I know.
And that's just
the
a
fact
ridiculous
that the players
thing.
continue to dispel it,
Right.
and yet people continue to
Yeah. But
what else do you want?
Right. And the media, I think it's so disingenuous for Christine Brennan and other media members to say, I'm just asking the question. But really what's happening is your natural instinct to protect and narrate white players versus go after and narrate black players. That to me is really the issue, because the way that the what is it called, the Caitlin Protection Committee or whatever they call it in Indiana, where the players hold her back, which was actually like cute and funny, and it seemed like their players were having fun with it. But it's like, and first of all, we love those characters in sports. I've been that character in sport a little bit. It's fun to get in there and kind of be like with it. Like, we have those characters in sports and we love that, and the sport needs that. And so I like that. That's fun. That is a way for, women honestly to be their full selves on the court. That is narrated as, oh, look how cute and fun this is. And look how just like mad Caitlin got. And then the way that Dijonai gets narrated and other black players in this league get narrated is they are targeting her. They are violently going after her. The instinct, and whether it's conscious or not, I think some of it is unconscious, which we might want to tap into that, people. The instinct is to protect the narration of the white players and to go after the narration of black players. And that is a problem. And back to your point about the greater responsibility that the media has in their line of questioning, in their understanding of the long history of the WNBA, in their understanding and appreciation and weaving in of the cultural context that the WNBA lives in, which is homophobia, misogyny, and sexism and racism for sure, to not take care with that and to not have journalistic integrity.
Well, I'm just like, where's the article that deep dives how the targeting's not taking place?
Right.
Does that exist?
Nobody's doing that.
I haven't seen it, but I'm like, maybe it exists and I haven't seen it.
Right.
Where is it?
So like that to me is the issue. And I haven't been in this, specific context, but I've been in a context with loaded questions when I knelt alongside Colin and other Black players and was talking about police brutality. The question of, do you hate America? That's a loaded question. I never said I hate America. I actually love America. It's just in the James Baldwin sense of loving America and wanting to critique and wanting to point out injustice where it is and, using my right to protest. So that to me is what is so unacceptable from the media. The media would not be on any first, second, or third teams this year. They need to be better. If you're going to cover the WNBA, you better be responsible with it because you're not just covering what's happening on the court. There are people showing up to players' hotel rooms.
Yeah. Chicago
their
Sky
hotels.
had people meet them at their bus.
That are saying racist things and saying, racist epithets in their social medias.
So very quickly, I just want to add, the other thing that is really been hard for me is people are trying to say this is only happening on Twitter. This is only happening on social media. So just players stay off or so-and-so stay off or don't. But it's not. It's being created on Twitter, but then real media members are then using it. And so it's like, it's a cycle and you can't just remove one part of the cycle. It's like this ecosystem that exists and it's all interacting with one another all the time. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I think it is upsetting when people try to say like, oh, just stay off Twitter. It's like, what? No. And also the other thing I'm going to add very quickly, we wanted to redefine what we meant by fans and fever fans and kind of understand the same thing exists for media. It's not all media. No. So when we say media, it's not all media, but we know the ones we're talking about.
We want to delineate between the people who are showing up and doing an amazing job and covering the game the way it deserves to be covered.
One other thing I want to add about this group of media and us trying to parse out who we're actually talking about, I do think there is a group within that media world that is maybe new to women's basketball that was covering it that thought they were having basketball conversations. They thought they were just talking about the game, who belongs, who doesn't, who should be here, who should be there, who should be rookie of the year, who should be MVP. They thought they were having those conversations. But because they didn't take into account the narratives that were also flowing, they missed the mark. And that really, I think, just plays into everything that we've been talking about.
Support for A Touch More comes from L'Oréal Paris, who are proudly presenting their 2024 Women of Worth honorees. Like Hillary Cohen, the co-founder and CEO of Everyday Action, a nonprofit that redistributes unused meals to aid those facing food insecurity in Los Angeles. Sharing a meal is about more than just food security. It's about reminding someone they are worthy of safety and care. Or Laura Pahulis, the founder and president of Control-Alt-Delete, a nonprofit that equips crisis response assistance for individuals to escape domestic violence situations. They provide transportation, lodging, hygiene, and grocery assistance, and security measures to aid in the very first steps for domestic violence survivors. In today's episode, and over the coming weeks, you'll hear directly from several of the unbelievable women in the L'Oréal Paris Women of Worth Alumni Network. We will be sharing their stories in their own words directly with you. Let's celebrate these women and let them inspire us to make change in our own communities, because they're worth it. Learn more about this year's recipients at womenofworth.com. So it leads to this reality in the W this year where players aren't feeling safe online or in real life. There are people coming to basketball games that have "Make Basketball Great Again" signs, that are saying signs that say "ban nails." What does that? What does that mean?
Carrington doesn't even have nails.
But even if she did, and all nails are okay. Like even if she did, so it's creating this environment where players don't feel safe, and also back to the player responsibility and where does the responsibility for all of this lie? If this is going to be the situation, does all the responsibility lie at the feet of the players?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. When the media does fail in this way, and they have, does it fall on the players?
Well, I don't think it's just the media that has failed. I do think the players have been failed this year. They have not been failed by their Players Association and Terry Jackson.
Themselves.
And themselves. I want to give a big shout out to Terry Jackson. We just saw her at the Liberty Aces game, and we said this to her. I think that they've done an incredible job of standing up for their players and saying things plainly and saying things explicitly and saying, I'll tell you what we're not going to do. We're not going to allow that.
Well, can we just like call a spade a spade? Racism has been impacting the WNBA well before this year. This is not a new thing.
Sure.
This is, and in that way, I do think Caitlin's being used as a pawn. Caitlin didn't bring racism to the WNBA. This has been happening. And that, I think, is what's been such a shock for all of us, that other people are surprised by this. We've been trying to tell you. And once again, for so long, as a player, I would almost joke. I'd be like, I would have loved to have shut up and dribble. In so many ways, I would have loved to have been valued as a basketball player. I would have been loved to have been spoken about just for my play. I think everybody in the league can say that. But nobody ever let us do that. So what happened? We started to build a backbone, a little bit of an identity. We understood that in order to push our league forward, we were going to have to combat these things. And then you know what else we learned? It feels good to stand up for yourself. It feels even better to stand up for others. We started to learn that people were learning from us and able to follow us in a different way. And who are we following? Black women. So that's such an important part. And I think, again, I get sad when I talk about this a little bit in that we're still not talking about basketball.
No.
We're still not allowed to be focused on for our basketball play. And it's not to say we're not going to continue to combat these things. That'll always exist, I think, in the fabric of our league. But we still aren't talking about basketball.
Yeah. And I think in the overall conversation around, well, equality in general, but I think in the context of sports and women's sports, I have personally found this to be true. And in the context of my own personal activism, but also in my team's activism and the national team's activism, I have found this secondhand seeing the WNBA organize and walk through the world. It is necessary to speak plainly and be explicitly clear about what your values are, what is not okay. Racism is never okay. Sexism is never okay, whether online and in real life. Misogyny, homophobia, all the things are never okay. And this is where I feel like the players have been failed the most by the media. And we've talked about that. And they need to really check themselves and do a better job and be better prepared to cover this league in the way that it deserves. But I also feel like they have been greatly failed by the league and by Kathy, the commissioner, this year. Like you said, this isn't new. This has been coming from the racism that the South Carolina team has experienced in the last 3-4 years that's been very explicit and, sort of in the consciousness. From the racism that Angel Reese specifically and that the LSU team has experienced in the college landscape, and particularly the rivalry with Iowa, two of the best teams in the country with the biggest players and the best storylines. And you have bona fide superstars in Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, which should have been just an unbelievably exciting time where everyone can just celebrate the explosion of women's basketball into a whole new stratosphere. We all saw this. We all experienced it. We knew this was coming. It's already been here. We knew it was coming. This wasn't a surprise. And not just the comments that the commissioner made a few weeks ago where she basically implied that the racial tension is good for business and invoking Magic and Bird. It's not good for business. It's never good for business. And sort of sidestep the question about racism and misogyny and hate that the players are receiving online, basically saying don't go on social media or, it's sort of not real. From the WNBA's perspective, The WNBA and the league office and Kathy's role specifically is basically to protect and shepherd the league, both from a business perspective, from a player welfare perspective, from a health and safety perspective, and from a growth and investment perspective. And this is where I feel like she's failed. And again, we have space for mistakes being made and learnings happening and all that. But we did see this coming. And it needed to be plainly stated, probably multiple times throughout the year, that this is who we are. This is what the WNBA is. This is the expectations of media. This is the expectation of fans. This is the expectations of players. So I feel like what's happened is the conversation has gotten to a place of like, well, did this player say enough or did they not say enough? Did this player say enough or did they not say enough? So now it's the responsibility of the players to not only go play the damn game and to be great and to give everything that you know it takes, mind, body, soul, to be the best player that you possibly can. Now it's on them to ensure their own health and safety, their own player wellness, their own safe workplace, whether that is online, in stadiums, or otherwise. And I don't think that that's fair. With that said, I will always encourage every player to you have a huge platform, and a lot of players have. And the WNBA, I do not have to tell the WNBA to use your voice. You saved America, and I am thankful for that. I will always encourage players to use their voice, to say what they believe, to stand on their platform. Whether you want to be a role model or not, you are. Whether you want a microphone in your face all the time or not, you have one. It's actually in your contract. You have to do media. You don't have to work here. You can work somewhere else, but it's in your contract. You have to do media. You have the ability to change the world. Yeah. And so I will always encourage players. And I think it's always unbelievably impactful when players do that. But I don't think it's their sole responsibility to do that. And that's where I feel like it just needs to be better. I feel like the players, particularly in the WNBA, have always been this sort of like backstop in this like ultimate safeguard against all of this behavior and these beliefs, whether it's racism or misogyny or homophobia. And that is just such an outsized responsibility for the very people you're asking to make the business run. You're asking the product to also do all of these things. That's just not fair.
So Megan, just piggybacking off of what you said, I actually think there's been a lot of players who have used their voice really well.
Agreed.
What I would say is particularly the white players, I would encourage them to continue to do that. Yeah. It has even more power. It just goes further. It has more weight because this isn't going away. This isn't going away. And one little thing I'm going to add before we get to what I think is one of the players who just nailed it.
Can I say something? More weight because we have more privilege. Because we don't experience the same hate, because we can talk about it in a different way and work to dispel some of these things, which I know.
And so like we're always encouraging players to do that. I did an interview with Michael Vopel in 2017. It was actually part of the article in which I came out. Shout out. Oh, hearts. Okay. Hearts. It was during the WNBA's All-Star Game, which was in Seattle. Yep. Everyone thought I was going to retire. So
psych, I'll be here for 7 more years.
And so I Googled it because I remember talking about the isms for the first time. And I Googled it and it literally says, Sue Bird, WNBA's growth mirrors NBA's. I had just watched like a 30 for 30 or something on the Magic versus Bird rivalry. And one of the very first quotes I have is, homophobia hurts our league. Racism hurts it. Sexism hurts it. For the NBA, it was a big racial issue. For us, it's racial and gender. Because I think a lot of people are pulling from the NBA back then, the Bird Magic rivalry and the race issue that existed there. What they're missing is we're also women. We're also LGBTQ. Yeah. And so there's layers on layers. But I just thought reading this was just very interesting. And I said, end quote, and we're going to have a moment. It's coming. Just that breakthrough that's going to give us a cool factor. And more people will want to be a part of it. Because that to me is the only thing we're lacking, the social thing. It's, having it be cool to go to a WNBA game. So it was just interesting to circle back on what I said before. This is not new. this has always been here, but the way it's covered has fallen short. And that's really what I enjoyed most about listening to Aliyah Boston in her exit interview. We're going to take a listen here.
Hi, I was wondering your thoughts on the Alyssa Thomas comments and if you've witnessed any of that firsthand inside Cambridge.
Yeah, I mean, AT's comments were, it's hard to hear, but it's also the truth in some way. I mean, I wouldn't put everything on Fever fans, but I mean, just overall on social media, I mean, there has been so much hate spread, and even being on this team, like to start the season, I was at the other end of those hate comments. I was at the other end of every single thing that's to come. They say they support the Fever and everything like that, but I mean, they just said everything under the earth, and it wasn't nice. And I feel like that was a big reason as to why I took a break from social media. And at the same time, it's like now that the tables have turned and we started winning games and I started doing better in their opinion, then all of a sudden it was like love comments and oh my gosh, you're doing amazing. And honestly, it's hard as a player because every single night we come out here, we're not performing for what you guys think. We are coming out here to do the best that we can to compete every single night. And it's kind of hard, but that's why for us, it's about focusing about the 12 in the locker room. It's about focusing what's important there, keeping those priorities straight. Because if you worry about every single thing that happens on the outside, it's kind of hard to win games, and that's exactly what we want to do. But a big part of it, too, is the storylines that come out. Like, I feel like the media plays a big role in what other people think, whether they watch the game or not. Sometimes people aren't even watching the games. They're just looking at storylines, headlines that come out, and they're running off of that. And it's easy to attach yourself to the Fever because we have a lot of attention around us right now. And it's so easy to say, well, I'm a Fever fan, I'm an AB fan, I'm a Caitlin fan, and just dispute hate off of that. And that's never okay. I feel like no matter who you are, what team you play for, like that should never be the case.
Aliyah Boston is 22 years old.
You just Googled it?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Aliyah Boston is 22 years old. And while I commend her being able to shoulder all this, she should not have to.
Mm-hmm.
She should not have to. These players should not have to do this. She should be able to just show up and be great. And I hope that this year in the W, and the world always follows the W, so this is certainly coming in other sports and certainly coming in other forms of life, that this has given us a moment to pause and will allow for a reset. Because where do we go from here? I think in particular, women's basketball has been a place where you can show up, whether that's online, in arena, at a fan event, whatever, the sort of figurative show up and feel safe and feel accepted and feel seen. And you don't have to be like everybody else. You can be different. You can be all types of things. We go to Liberty games and Storm games and games on games on games all the time. Everybody's in there. Everybody is in there. Every person from every walk of life is in there. And really the only rule in there is like, don't be an asshole.
Racist.
Don't be racist. Yeah. Don't be racist. Don't be sexist. Don't be homophobic, transphobic, or misogynistic.
And I don't think
those are the rules.
And I don't think being a mainstream sport in our world, in U.S. society, NBA, NFL, all of the above, I don't think you have to accept those things to be a mainstream sport. A lot of times there's this thing like, oh, well, you guys wanted coverage. Now you got it. This is what comes with it.
No.
Why do we people just get to like, I don't know, hurl racial slurs around?
No.
Or get to be, I just don't understand that.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
I just don't. And it actually, we talked about this before, like the fan that went hard at Caitlin at the Connecticut Sun game in game 1 or 2, I can't remember, where there was an interaction where the fan almost got ejected. It's like, none of this is okay. And we never accept it. We never accept this on the men's side.
No, get him out. You've lost
That
your
player
privileges
points
now.
him out, get out.
You don't have an innate right to be at the, you paid a price to pay for your ticket. That comes with rules. You can go in your terms and conditions and look at your ticket, which obviously no one ever does, but go ahead and get in there. You do not have the right to come and abuse people at their workplace.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
I don't understand that. Why is it okay in our league? Why is it, oh, welcome to mainstream sports? And the only thing I want to add to that before we move on is, I can say this. I do understand having more eyeballs, having more attention brings more scrutiny, brings more, at times, basketball sport controversy. Not this kind of controversy.
Yeah, for sure.
We all understand that. But that's where the media has to do their research and
job.
understand and cover it properly. Well, that's a lot. It's a dense topic. Again, the nuance is so important. The layers are so important. I'm glad that we started this conversation today. There's so much more to talk about it. We're going to talk about it on future episodes because it's a conversation that needs to continue and more people need to get involved in.
Vox Creative.
This is advertiser content from L'Oreal Paris.
One thing people should know about me is I'm a fiery redhead through and through.
Ashley Rhodes Quarter, fiery redhead, fierce advocate, L'Oreal Paris Woman of Worth.
So even as a young child growing up in the foster care system, I always had a drive to be a voice for those who otherwise wouldn't have one.
Ashley is the director of the Foundation for Sustainable Families, an organization that bridges service gaps for children and families navigating the foster care system.
So much of the work that we do is rooted in that idea of giving families and individuals the tools that they need to be sustainable for themselves and for the community at large.
Each year, L'Oreal Paris launches a nationwide search for 10 extraordinary nonprofit leaders to be named Women of Worth. Each honoree receives $25,000 to support their charitable cause, mentorship from the L'Oreal Paris Network, and a national platform to amplify their stories and their work. For Ashley and the Foundation for Sustainable Families,
being a part of the L'Oreal Paris Women of Worth program allowed for us to double the amount of therapists and providers that we have for children, as well as double the number of families that we were serving.
Ashley has dedicated herself to making sure that vulnerable children have many people in their court to remind them that they are worthy of safety, care, and love.
That L'Oreal Paris has a Women of Worth program is so incredible because it showcases all of the different ways that women truly are worthy, that the children and families that we serve in our programs are worthy.
Learn more about Ashley Rhodes Quarter, the Foundation for Sustainable Families, and about this year's recipients at womenofworth.com. Now it's time for Are You a Megan or Are You a Sue? Responses. As a reminder, last week we did a White House edition, pants or skirts. So we have one response that we're going to listen to. I'm kind of nervous.
I'm excited.
Hi, Megan and Sue. This is Brooke from Seattle, Washington. And I had to laugh out loud at this week's question because I am 100% a Sue. Although, Sue, I hope you feel better about your outfit after seeing what I wore my first time to the White House. It was 1997. President Clinton was in office, and I was there with Girls Nation. So I wore a white polo shirt and a mandatory knee-length blue skirt, which was certainly purchased from the Gap. And when I rolled in from Oregon with my chunky highlights and no nylons, the elderly women of the American Legion Auxiliary were horrified. And so they had to go take a special trip out to get me some nylons because it was unacceptable to go to the White House without them. I sent you the pictures in Instagram DM. Anyway, Sue, you looked great. And Megan, all the times you've been to the White House, hopefully I'll go back someday and I can wear something better than that horrific outfit. Thank you for the laugh this week. It was much needed. Bye.
Man, she slid in those DMs. Slipping and sliding. I kind of like it.
I'm here for
That's
it.
what you did.
I did. I don't mind a DM slide. I mean, epic.
Epic. Nylons. What?
Getting shamed for showing a leg is just so funny. But then also, the sisters.
Sounds like it was of the time. Looks like it was of the times.
Looks like it was of the times. Yeah. The sisters went and got her. We're gonna flash it on the screen, but the
fall into the Gap. Took it to the Gap.
Solid.
Got it right.
We had a Gap where I lived, and that was a really big deal.
I was like, didn't everybody have a Gap where they lived?
No, you're from New York. Not everybody has everything. I love the uniformity of the polo. I'm not a uniform gal myself.
You know how I feel. 2 years of Catholic school, junior and senior year. I didn't think I was going to like it. I loved it. The The
you
decision
would wear the
fatigue.
same thing.
The
You would
decision
love that.
fatigue around getting dressed sometimes, I'm just like, oh,
I know.
enough. Just put me in the same thing. And so I actually don't mind this. I don't mind having to wear
chunky
a uniform.
highlights. I can see them from here. Yeah, she was dead on. I love this skirt. She was standing on business. She really
That's
was.
right. One listener also pointed out, Megan, that we didn't mention your visit to the White House when you got the Presidential Medal of Freedom. You had a amazing bodysuit on.
Yeah. Emily Bodie made me an incredible custom white suit. Stylist Carla Welch, actually, this was her brainchild. She wanted me to wear white as a nod to the suffragists and oftentimes women of government, whether it's in the Senate or Congress. Sometimes all wear white together as like basically just fighting for women's rights in general. And Emily then embroidered and stitched all basically the most important people in my life and, you know, people who I felt kind of like got me there at the White House for that particular award. So it was like all their initials were stitched into that. It was my family. It was your initials. It was Colin Kaepernick's initials. And then Brittany Griner's initials, who was detained overseas in Russia at the time. Her initials was on my lapel. Just keep that front and center. Yeah. So that was incredible. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Carla. Good call. And we're going to leave you with a touch more once again. As we do.
Just a touch more, a little bit.
Just a touch more.
Yeah.
We were at game one of the semifinals. Do you guys call them semifinals?
We do.
Okay,
What do you call them?
Semifinals.
Okay, what else would you call them?
I don't know. Sometimes you guys call them Final Fours. Sometimes you call them Eastern Conference Finals or Western Conference Finals. They don't have the conference finals. So I just didn't know, what
Final Four is more of like a single elimination situation.
Oh, okay.
You guys could actually call yours the Final Four.
I didn't know if the basketball was the same as the soccer.
In this case, it is.
We're at the semifinals. Liberty Aces at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Spike Lee was there. Kelsey Plum knew Spike Lee was there.
She sure did.
I am so jealous of Kelsey. I love her antics.
Tell him what happened.
Spike gets involved. He was there for, I think, game two
he was there.
of the previous series. Sabrina had intimated that he put New York right in her veins just by being there and touching her and giving a dap up. Kelsey, I think, had successive, really good plays. I think she hit a 3.
She had 2 like amazing finishes.
Yeah, Kelsey.
I was like, whoa.
I know. We were on the sidelines like, damn.
I still don't cheer when I go to games.
Tough.
But
I do.
Sometimes when people make a good play, I'm like, woof.
I know. Woo, tough.
So Plum got me on those 2.
And Plum, in classic Plum fashion, is just jawing back down the court. I loved it so much.
I can't even tell you how much I loved it.
That is such a quintessential American basketball moment. Spike Lee,
New
white
York
frames in New York. Yeah, quintessential
jawing
New York.
at the opponent.
Jawing at Spike Lee.
And Plum just
Spike Lee jawing at
taking it on.
Kelsey.
It was so good. I mean, everybody knows why it's good. You don't even have to say it. It was so good. Watching it, we were across the court. Just so good.
Loved
Obviously, Liberty took game 1.
They did.
By the time this comes out, we'll know if they've...
Brianna Stewart took game 1.
Yeah, she did. She came out. Yeah, I think, listen, I wouldn't be surprised if the Liberty remembers and uses last year's finals and really the celebration of the Aces as motivation. But one thing I know about the Aces from playing against them, they adjust, boy.
Mm-hmm.
They adjust.
Yeah.
They're going to be at those laptops on Synergy, just like find an adjustment. So I'm really looking for this whole series is going to be so good.
One more thing I also loved, I'm just going to slip it in, is, I love a meta meaning, a multiple meaning, a multi-medium way of expressing competitiveness in the sports environment. And the Aces rolled up in Tim's last night. All of them except Asia.
In Asia's jersey, too.
In Asia's jersey. It didn't age well. They lost the game. But I like it. I like it. And I like that New York saw it and took it personally.
Yeah, the series has a lot of teeth to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is,
Yeah.
that's
a lot going on.
That's what you love about sports.
In the basement,
that's
as
the
they
kind
say.
of teeth we like.
Yeah.
All right, last but not least, Megan Rapinoe, the newest member of the University of Portland Hall of Fame.
Is that? No, I need the jacket. I actually need my plaque.
Do you want to keep going?
Yeah.
How does it
So
feel?
stupid.
How does it feel?
This is why I'm so jealous and also probably thankful I never played basketball. I would be insufferable. Anyways, it was such a great weekend. It was so meaningful, so well done, so sweet. It was amazing to be back on campus. Shout out to everyone at the University of Portland who played a role in putting on that Hall of Fame ceremony. There was 9 total inductees. A lot of my old college teammates, a lot of the people inducted, 2 other soccer players, Michelle Enyart and Angie Wozniak-Kerr, were inducted as well, along with other athletes that were there while I was at the University of Portland. Sue came out for the day. That was so nice. My twin sister, lives in Portland. I had so many people there who I love. So it was so special. And I kind of want a purple jacket. Do I just make it myself?
What
Do I
did
call
you?
Emily
you got a
and just
plaque.
have her make it for
You got
me?
a plaque.
Yeah, I got a.
And they did you dirty.
It's like, did they do me dirty or was that who I was
Well, no,
in
they
college?
did you dirty because you had your hair up, but they didn't show the back of the ponytail, the
didn't.
flow. They cut out your flow.
I look like bald with bangs at the same time.
Yeah.
And my eyes
They
were
took out
slightly
your pony.
closed. It's okay. Honestly, it's funny. I have to laugh at all the different stages that I have been through in my physical appearance journey, because if not, I have to cry.
Well, the one thing that stuck out, because they showed a little video prior. They actually did, okay, I'm going to give my perspective for a second. They did a wonderful job. Obviously, University of Portland is not a huge school, like in terms of numbers. It's not a large school.
Small but mighty.
Yeah, but you really felt neighborly in there. It felt like you were going in the Hall of Fame with like your neighbors.
Yeah.
And everybody's so wonderful. It really was such an enjoyable experience being there, witnessing it. Obviously, super proud of you. So congratulations.
Thanks,
wink,
babe.
wink. But yeah, so they showed a video. This is how it all went down for all the athletes. Introduced you, showed a little video, just like a recap of your Portland career. And then you got brought up on stage to do a fireside chat, which was wonderful. Everybody got to share some of their favorite experiences of being at Portland. It was really, really special. When you popped up on the screen for your little highlight video, me and your sister were both like, boobs! It was just like, boobs! What were you eating? And then
Estrogen? I don't know.
Holy boobs.
Honestly,
Were the uniforms tighter?
the women in my family have boobs. We
Whoa.
are a voluptuous people. Anyone who I've ever played with will look at that video and just say, yeah, I know
boobs.
that. I know those boobs.
I don't know those boobs.
Well, once I was a little older, I slimmed down, got a little fitter, honestly, got a little more in shape.
So you're like one of those, I don't know, I guess I was going to say lucky ones where when you gain weight, it's just like in your boobs.
Literally. If I gain a pound, it's right
I
here.
know.
The second pound over here. Yeah. I mean, it is directly where it goes. I'm blessed.
Well, I'm going to do the show close because I feel like I have my 1-800 number voice going.
Hey.
So we're going to roll with this. That is it for this week's episode. Don't forget to register to vote. We will see you next week.
Thanks to L'Oreal Paris for their support. What does "because you're worth it" mean to you? We heard from Ashley Rhodes-Corder earlier in the episode that every human being deserves to feel worthy, that helping others feel worthy is vital. L'Oreal Paris knows that everyone deserves that feeling. Whether it's inspiration from our Women of Worth honorees or the confidence you feel after applying the classic Color Riche lipstick, L'Oreal's got your back. When you know you're worth it, you inspire others to know that they're worth it too. Learn more at l'orealparis.com.